Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to, plunge into those fascinating currents of human experience and bring you the insights you need fast. And today, we're tackling something I think pretty much everyone has felt, but maybe doesn't talk about much. It's that complex, often kind of awkward tension, the one that crops up in friendships when, people start diverging in those measurable areas, like success.
Yeah, measurable things, grades, careers, maybe financial status, even sports sometimes.
Exactly. And it's that moment, isn't it? Like one friend gets this big promotion, maybe another's really struggling to find work.
Or someone's just flying through their master's program and their old study buddy is barely keeping their head above water.
It's this really weird paradox.
Yeah.
One person's success, totally unintentional, right? No ill will.
Yeah.
But it somehow creates discomfort.
Or even alienation, yeah.
It's just a sticky situation. And we really want to unpack why it feels so inescapable.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to take you on a journey through some really insightful sources, explore the psychology behind this subtle but, really pervasive tension. The goal is basically to give you a shortcut, help you understand this pretty intricate human experience, hopefully offer some clarity, maybe some surprising insights too.
Yeah, and practical ways to maybe navigate it.
Exactly. Practical ways to handle it.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this. There's a foundational concept our sources point to right away. Social comparison theory. Festinger, right? 1954.
That's the one. Leon Festinger, 1954.
So what is that exactly? And why is it so fundamental here, especially with friends?
Well, at its core, the theory suggests that we figure ourselves out, evaluate ourselves, kind of relative to other people.
Yeah.
Think about it. There isn't really an absolute yardstick for, say, competence or success in most parts of life. You can't just know if you're good enough in a vacuum.
Right. You need some kind of benchmark.
Precisely. So what do? We look around, we look to others, especially our peers, our friends, to gauge how we're doing, where we stand.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And the sources seem to say this leads down two main paths, upward and downward comparison.
Exactly. Upward is when you look at someone who seems, better off.
Which could be motivating.
It can be, definitely. Inspire you to achieve more. But, as we often see, and as our sources highlight, it can also stir up feelings of inadequacy, envy, maybe, or just feeling left behind.
And the other one, downward.
Downward comparison, that's looking at someone you perceive as worse off. And that can actually boost your self-esteem sometimes, make you feel grateful, maybe more fortunate.
But there's a risk there, too.
Oh, absolutely. The risk is feeling guilty about your own position, or even a bit of arrogance, potentially.
Okay, so here's where it gets, really interesting and kind of weird, honestly, in friendships. Our sources talk about this strange situation where both directions, upward and downward, can happen in the
same time.
Yeah, creating what they call mutual asymmetry in social comparison. That sounds like an emotional pretzel. Can you walk us through what that actually looks like?
It is an emotional pretzel, and it's way more common than people think. So imagine your friend, let's call her Alex, right? She lands this amazing job, huge salary.
Okay, dream job.
Right. But Alex might still be comparing herself upward, maybe to like an industry titan or someone even more successful in her field. So she's feeling her own imposter syndrome.
Huh. Even with a great job.
Even then. But at the same time, you, her friend, you're comparing yourself upward to Alex, feeling maybe insecure about your own career path, feeling a bit behind.
Right, okay. I'm following.
Now, here's the kicker. Alex might also be, maybe unconsciously, making a downward comparison to you, her friend, who seems to be struggling more.
And that sparks.
Guilt. Surprisingly often, it sparks guilt for Alex. So you end up with this dynamic. Alex, the quote-unquote gifted friend, feels this kind of low-level guilt about her success. And you, the friend who feels or is perceived as behind, you're grappling with inadequacy.
Wow.
It's this complex, usually unspoken web. Both people are contributing. Both are experiencing this tension. It's often a lose-lose that nobody quite recognizes is happening.
That's fascinating because it's not just about the achievement itself then, it's how you perceive it relative to someone you care about and how they perceive your success, potentially through their own lens. Our sources really get into the layers here. It's not just a simple A-B comparison, is it?
Not at all.
We're talking about, like you said, asymmetry of perspectives, this conflict between gratitude and guilt. And how it challenges that feeling of equality in a friendship. Let's dig into those layers. What about that asymmetry of perspectives? What does the research show there?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. It's often the root of the misunderstanding. Each person sees the situation totally differently from their own unique viewpoint, and those views, they're rarely lined up.
No.
So the gifted friend, let's say, might genuinely be happy about their success, but maybe they also feel a bit isolated or burdened by how things have suddenly shifted. They might be thinking, look, I worked really hard for this. Why does it feel like I have to apologize? Or why does this feel awkward now?
So they're focused on their own internal experience of the success,
Yeah,
not necessarily seeing the impact on the friend.
exactly. Or not interpreting it the same way. Meanwhile, the friend who feels behind might be zeroed in on the disparity, maybe even projecting their own insecurities onto Alex.
Thinking things like, oh, she probably thinks she's better than me now.
Right. Even if that's completely untrue, they see Alex's success as a direct reflection of their own perceived shortcomings. And that fundamental difference in interpretation, that fuels so much of the unspoken tension.
Which leads perfectly into that next layer you brought up, the conflict between gratitude and guilt. For the gifted friend, that must be a really weird tightrope to walk.
It really is.
You're grateful, obviously, for the good thing that happened, but that gratitude can curdle into guilt pretty quickly, can it?
It absolutely can. Our sources really point out this paradox. The very success that brings joy can also trigger this really complex, mixed emotional response. You might feel guilty enjoying your good fortune when your friend is clearly struggling, or even just guilty for, surpassing someone you genuinely care about.
Like a kind of survivor's guilt.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Survivor's guilt within a friendship, and this can lead them to do things like downplay their achievement.
Or avoid talking about work altogether.
Exactly. Or even pull back from the friendship a bit, all trying to lessen that discomfort. But of course, that often backfires. It just makes the other friend feel even more distant or alienated.
And for the friend feeling behind, they probably feel conflicted too. Maybe they want to be happy for their friend, genuinely.
Of course they do, usually.
But the sting of their own situation just makes it incredibly hard.
That's it precisely. They're wrestling with this genuine desire to celebrate versus that sharp pang of their own inadequacy, maybe envy. It's this internal battle. And that conflict can be incredibly draining. It isolates them further, makes it hard to just show up authentically in the friendship. It's a real double bind for both people involved.
And this all seems to tie into that third layer you mentioned, how these diverging paths challenge a friend group's sort of inherent sense of equality. Especially if the friendship was built on shared experiences, similar life stages. When that suddenly changes, what happens to that base level feeling of being equals?
Yeah, that's a critical point. So many friendships are forged during those times of shared struggle, right? College, first jobs, maybe early parenthood. There's this unspoken thing, this we're in it together vibe.
Totally.
So when one person's circumstances shift dramatically, financially, professionally, personally, it disrupts that equilibrium. It can almost feel like a betrayal of that shared story, that shared narrative.
Like the script changed.
Exactly. The script changed. The friend feeling behind might feel like the common ground is just shrinking, like their shared reality is fracturing. And the gifted friend might feel like, well, they're not understood anymore, or that their new reality is somehow pushing away their oldest, closest connections.
That sense of we're all on the same team starts to erode.
It really can,
Yeah.
creating this invisible rift where there used to be really strong bonds, and that can be profoundly lonely, actually, for both sides.
So we kind of bring this deep dive toward a close. It's really clear just how multifaceted this whole social comparison thing is. Deeply human, incredibly complex, and that nagging tension, feeling like an imposter sometimes or feeling behind, it seems baked into us.
It really does. Our brains evolved to track status and belonging. It's an old system.
And what makes it so stubborn, so hard to just switch off, is how it gets reinforced, right? By cultural scripts, ideas about what success looks like, grades, money, achievements.
The measurable stuff.
Yeah. So even if you intellectually know better, that comparison reflex is almost automatic. The feelings just persist.
Exactly. Which is why the healthiest approach probably isn't trying to, eliminate the tension completely. That might be impossible. It's more about recognizing it, naming it,
Yeah.
and then trying to reframe it in healthier ways.
Okay, so what do the sources suggest there for reframing?
Well, for the gifted friend, things like validating your own success, sure, but doing it without diminishing others, shifting focus sometimes from just the outcome, the promotion, the grade, to the process.
Yeah.
the effort, the challenges overcome.
Right, sharing the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And also consciously highlighting the multifaceted worth of your friends, acknowledging strengths that have nothing to do with money or titles, and for the friendship itself. Nurturing those non-comparative spaces is huge. Shared hobbies, inside jokes, experiences that aren't tied to achievement, they anchor the relationship outside that shadow.
That makes sense. Creating comparison-free zones.
Yeah. And remembering to balance those lenses we talked about. Zoom out with a wide lens. See your life beyond just this one slice of success or struggle. And zoom in with a close lens. Focus on your next meaningful step, whatever that is. And finding safe outlets to actually process these tricky emotions, that's key for both sides too. Not letting it just fester silently.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective, moving beyond just that immediate, often uncomfortable comparison. But what about the pushback? Our sources did mention some valid counterpoints, didn't they, from both sides, like the gifted friend feeling unfairly burdened.
Yes, absolutely crucial to acknowledge those. They remind us these aren't just abstract concepts, they're raw, real emotions. From that gifted perspective, you definitely hear valid frustrations like, why should I have to downplay myself? Or my own struggles are invisible here, or it feels like I can't win either way.
Yeah, like they're being asked to manage someone else's insecurity.
Precisely. As if their success is inherently something to be ashamed of or hidden. And they often have their own challenges, their own upward comparisons that just aren't seen from the outside.
Okay, and the flip side, the perceived behind perspective.
Well, from their side, you get pushback. Like, it's really easy for them to say, just don't compare, or their attempts at humility feel kind of fake sometimes.
Or their struggles just aren't the same as mine.
Exactly. They might feel typecast as the underdog, or that their friend's advice, however well-intentioned, doesn't truly grasp the difficulties they're facing. And these pushbacks, they're important. They underscore that while reframing and empathy are helpful tools, the raw emotions are stubborn. And it's not just personal psychology either.
Right? Structural factors play a role.
Yeah, things like the myth of pure meritocracy or different cultural scripts about success and friendship, those are big forces at play too. It's not just happening in a vacuum between two people.
So it's complicated on every level. Okay, let's leave our listeners with a final thought, something to mull over. We've talked a lot about how success gets measured grades, salaries, titles. But if those aren't the only currency that truly matters, what deeper currencies might be out there?
Interesting question.
Yeah, like as you navigate your own journey and you see your friends on their paths, maybe consider, what about things like relationships, freedom, resilience, peace of mind? What deeper currencies are you truly valuing in your own life and in your friendships? And how might shifting your focus to those redefine your own sense of being ahead or behind?
That's a great question to sit with.
So something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the very complex world of social comparison and friendships. Keep exploring these fascinating human connections. We'll see you next time.